Dr. Kethamori pressed her blue hand against the ship's window as they entered orbit around the third planet. The world below looked dead and empty, covered in green forests and blue oceans that sparkled in the light of the yellow star. No cities, no signals, no signs of intelligent life anywhere. "Scans complete, Doctor," called Lieutenant Vex from the pilot's seat. "The planet shows clear signs of past civilization. Large metal structures buried underground, unusual energy readings from several locations, and something that might be ancient ruins." Kethamori nodded, her large purple eyes studying the data on her tablet. As the lead archaeologist for the Galactic Archaeological Society, she had explored dozens of dead worlds. Most were boring, just empty planets where some species had lived and died without leaving anything interesting behind. But this one felt different. "Take us down to the largest energy signature," she ordered. The ship descended through white clouds toward a vast continent. As they got closer, Kethamori could see strange patterns in the landscape. Long, straight lines that looked too perfect to be natural, circular areas where the vegetation grew in different colors. And in the center of it all, a cluster of metal towers that rose like fingers from the earth. They landed in a clearing near the towers. Kethamori stepped out of the ship, breathing the alien air through her environmental suit. The gravity was lighter than her homeworld, making each step feel bouncy. Her team of 6 researchers followed her, carrying scanning equipment and excavation tools. "Amazing," whispered Dr. Yorick, the team's technology specialist. He was pointing his scanner at the nearest tower. "These structures are made from materials I don't recognize. The metal seems to repair itself when damaged." Kethamori approached the base of the tower. It was smooth and silver, reflecting her face like a mirror. When she touched it, warm patterns of light flowed under her fingers. The tower hummed with quiet energy, as if it was still alive after who knew how many years. "Doctor, over here," called Dr. Nala from across the clearing. She was standing near what looked like the entrance to an underground facility. The doorway was sealed with a transparent barrier that glowed with soft blue light. The team gathered around the entrance. Kethamori studied the symbols carved into the metal frame around the door. They were unlike anything in the galactic database of known languages, sharp, angular marks that seemed to flow together in complex patterns. "Try the universal translator," she told Dr. Yorick. He held up his device and scanned the symbols. After a moment, it beeped and displayed a translation. "Archive of the Third Era. Knowledge Vault 7. Access restricted to inheritors." "Inheritors?" said Lieutenant Vex. "What does that mean?" Before anyone could answer, the blue barrier flickered and disappeared. The entrance stood open, revealing a corridor that sloped down into darkness. Lights began to turn on automatically, illuminating a path deeper underground. Kethamori felt a chill run down her spine. "The facility knows we're here." They walked carefully down the corridor, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The walls were covered with more of the strange symbols, glowing faintly with inner light. After several minutes, they reached a large round chamber filled with tall crystalline structures. "Data storage," breathed Dr. Yorick, running his scanner over the nearest crystal. "These things contain more information than our entire ship's computer." Kethamori approached one of the crystals. When she got close, it began to glow brighter. Suddenly, images appeared in the air above it. 3-dimensional pictures that moved like recordings. She saw strange bipedal creatures with pale skin and small eyes. They walked upright on 2 legs and used their hands to manipulate tools and machines. "A new species," she said excitedly. "We've discovered a completely unknown intelligent race." The images showed these creatures building the towers, working with advanced technology and creating the underground facility. But there was something strange about their behavior. They moved with purpose and urgency, as if they were preparing for something important. Dr. Nala had activated another crystal. This one showed technical diagrams and mathematical equations that made her translator struggle to keep up. "These calculations are incredible," she said. "They're showing energy output levels that are 10 times higher than anything our best engineers can achieve." More crystals came to life as the team explored the chamber. Each one revealed new wonders, machines that could reshape matter at the atomic level, ships that could travel between stars in days instead of months, weapons that could crack planets in half. The technology was far beyond anything the galactic civilizations had ever imagined. But the most disturbing discovery came from a crystal near the back of the chamber. This one showed text instead of images, page after page of writing in the alien language. Dr. Yorick's translator worked slowly through the complex symbols. "It's some kind of journal or log," he reported. "The author is describing something called the Great Preparation. Listen to this. Phase 7 of the preparation is complete. All monitoring stations are now in position across the target sectors. The subjects continue to develop according to projections. When the time comes, they will be ready." "Subjects?" said Kethmori. "What subjects?" Dr. Yorick continued reading. "Here's another entry. The Zephyrian civilization has achieved faster than light communication exactly as the models predicted. The guidance protocols worked perfectly. They still have no idea we exist." "Doctor, I think they're talking about us. The Zephyrians are our species." A cold silence filled the chamber. Kethmori stared at the glowing crystal, trying to understand what she was hearing. "That's impossible. Our civilization developed naturally over millions of years." "There's more," Dr. Yorick said, his voice shaking. "They have files on dozens of species. The Cathari, the Methani, the Vorthon Empire, all of us. They've been watching us, studying us, influencing our development from the shadows." Lieutenant Vex stepped forward, his hand moving to his weapon. "Are they still here? Are we in danger?" Dr. Yorick scanned more text. "No, I don't think so. This journal talks about the final phase and departing before discovery. The last entries are over 500,000 years old." "500,000 years," whispered Dr. Nala. "They achieved all this technology 500,000 years ago, when our species was still learning to make fire." Kethmori felt overwhelmed by the implications. If this unknown species had been so advanced, why had they disappeared? Why had they spent so much time watching other civilizations develop? And what was this great preparation they kept mentioning? She activated another crystal, hoping to find answers. This one showed a schematic of some kind of massive construction project. The design was so complex that her translator could barely make sense of it, but one thing was clear: it was a weapon of incredible power. The energy calculations suggested it could destroy entire star systems. Why would they build something like this? She wondered aloud. The crystal flickered and new text appeared. "Planetary defense grid, final configuration, activation to be. Delayed until inheritor civilizations achieve minimum technological threshold. May the galaxy forgive us for what we have prepared." Dr. Yorick looked up from his translator, his face pale. "Doctor, I think we need to contact the Galactic Council immediately. This isn't just an archaeological discovery. This is evidence of a civilization that was far more advanced than anything we've ever imagined, and they left behind weapons that could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Kethmori nodded slowly, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of this mystery. The journal entries spoke of preparation and subjects and inheritors. The unknown. Species had called themselves something that translated roughly as the Guardians or the Shapers. What had they been preparing for? And why did they seem to think that the current galactic civilizations would need their help? As they prepared to leave the chamber, Kethmori took one last look at the glowing crystals. Each one contained secrets that could revolutionize their understanding of technology and history, but they also raised disturbing questions about free will and the true nature of galactic civilization. The mystery of this dead world was just beginning to unfold. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery of the underground archive. Dr. Kethmory's team had set up a permanent research camp on the surface while more scientists arrived from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had declared the planet a priority archaeological site, sending their best experts to help unlock its secrets. Every day brought new impossibilities. Dr. Nala emerged from the underground facility, her face showing the same expression of bewilderment that had become common among the research team. She found Kethmory sitting by their campfire, staring at a tablet full of translated documents. "The carbon dating results came back," Nala said, sitting down heavily. "Doctor, these results don't make sense." Kethmory looked up. "How bad is it?" "According to our tests, this civilization achieved faster-than-light travel 847,000 years ago. They had quantum computers 920,000 years ago, and this facility was built 1.2 million years ago." Nala shook her head. "That's impossible. The oldest known civilization in the galaxy only goes back 200,000 years." "What about the other sites?" asked Kethmory. "That's the really strange part. We've found 47 similar facilities across this continent alone. All of them were built at different times, spanning over 2 million years. It's like this species was constantly upgrading and improving their technology for longer than any known civilization has existed." Dr. Yorick approached their fire, carrying a new batch of translated documents. His normally cheerful demeanor had been replaced by deep concern. "I've been reading through their communication logs," he said. "These beings didn't just watch our civilizations develop. They actively interfered with our evolution." He sat down and opened his tablet. "Listen to this message from 400,000 years ago. Project Zephyria Update. Subject species has successfully developed written language after introduction of guided dreams to their philosophers. Mathematical concepts are progressing ahead of schedule. Recommend proceeding to Phase 3 of cognitive enhancement." "Guided dreams?" said Nala. "They were influencing our ancestors' minds while they slept?" "Gets worse," Yorick continued. "Here's a report about the Kothari. Engineering aptitude successfully enhanced through careful manipulation of their genetic development. Introduced beneficial mutations are spreading through the population as planned. The subjects now show 300% improved spatial reasoning compared to baseline projections." Kethmory felt sick. "They were changing our DNA?" "Not just ours. Every major species in the galaxy has similar files. The Methani's quantum intuition, the Vorthan military instincts, the Dalari's diplomatic skills. All of it was artificially enhanced by this unknown species." Lieutenant Vex had been listening from across the camp. He walked over, his expression angry. "So you're telling me that everything we've accomplished, everything we are, is because some ancient aliens decided to play God with our evolution?" "It's more complex than that," said Dr. Yorick. "From what I can tell, they didn't just randomly change things. Every modification seems carefully planned, like they were designing us for specific purposes." Over the following days, the team made even more disturbing discoveries. Hidden beneath the planet's oceans, they found massive construction yards where the unknown species had built ships larger than cities. The vessels were designed for travel between galaxies, not just between stars. Dr. Nala discovered records showing that this species had explored thousands of other galaxies, mapping them in detail. But in every case, they had eventually returned to this galaxy and settled on this one planet. "Why come back?" wondered Kethmory. "If they had the technology to travel anywhere in the universe, why did they choose to stay here?" The answer came from a facility buried deep beneath the planet's north pole. This archive was different from the others. Older, more heavily protected, and filled with records that made the team's translators struggle with concepts that didn't exist in any known language. Dr. Yorick worked for days to decode the central file. When he finally succeeded, his face went white. "Doctor, you need to see this." The file contained a single message, repeated in hundreds of different versions as if the writers had been struggling to find the right words. We came from the spaces between galaxies. We have seen what comes after civilizations reach their peak. We have watched galaxies die in silence and darkness. We chose this galaxy not because it was special, but because it was next. The cycle must be broken. The inheritors must be prepared. We sacrifice ourselves so that others may have what we could not, a chance to survive what is coming. What does that mean? Asked Nala. What's coming? Yorick continued reading. There are references to something they call the silence, entities, or forces that exist in the empty spaces between galaxies. According to these records, the silence moves from galaxy to galaxy, consuming all biological life and leaving only empty void behind. That's just mythology, said Lieutenant Vex. Ancient cultures always have stories about monsters in the dark. Maybe, said Yorick. But these beings had technology we can barely understand. If they believed the silence was real enough to spend millions of years preparing for it. Dr. Keth Mori stood up and walked to the edge of their camp, looking up at the alien stars. The idea that their entire civilization was artificial, designed by beings who had faced some cosmic threat, was almost too much to accept. But the evidence was overwhelming. "Doctor," called Dr. Nala from the communication station. "We're receiving a signal from the orbital survey team. They found something big." The survey team had been mapping the planet from space, looking for additional facilities. Captain Horth's voice crackled over the radio. "Dr. Keth Mori, you need to see this. We've detected a massive structure on the far side of the planet. It's the size of a continent." Within hours, the team had traveled to the new site. What they found defied belief, a construction project so vast that it could be seen from orbit. Millions of interconnected towers, energy conduits, and quantum processors stretched across an area larger than most countries. "It's some kind of computer," said Dr. Yorick, his scanner barely able to process the readings. "The processing power of this thing is beyond measurement. It's like they built an artificial mind the size of a continent." As they explored the massive facility, they discovered that it was still active. Billions of calculations were running constantly, monitoring something across vast distances. The computer was watching the space between galaxies, scanning for signs of movement in the cosmic void. Dr. Nala found an interface that her translator could partially decode. "It's a warning system," she reported. "This machine has been watching for something for over 500,000 years. And Doctor, I think it's found what it was looking for." The main display showed a map of the local galaxy group. Dozens of galaxies scattered across millions of light years. Most were marked in blue, indicating normal activity. But at the edge of the map, several galaxies were marked in red. As they watched, more galaxies slowly changed from blue to red. "What does red mean?" asked Keth Mori. Yorick consulted his translator. "Silent. The red galaxies are marked as silent. No radio signals, no signs of life, no energy signatures from technological civilizations. How many? 17 galaxies have gone silent in the past 100,000 years, and the pattern is moving in our direction." Lieutenant Vex stared at the display. "You're saying that something is destroying entire galaxies?" "Not destroying," said Dr. Yorick quietly. "Silencing. According to these records, the silence doesn't break planets or stars. It just ends biological life. Everything else remains. But every living thing dies, and no new life ever begins." Keth Mori felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's temperature. If this unknown species had been preparing for such a threat, then everything they had discovered suddenly made sense. The genetic modifications, the technological guidance, the careful shepherding of galactic civilization, it had all been preparation for a war that hadn't started yet. "How long do we have?" she asked. The Continental computer displayed new information in response to her question. Dr. Yorick translated slowly. Estimated time of arrival for the silence, 47,000 years. Probability of successful defense by current galactic civilizations without additional preparation, 0.003%. The team stood in silence, overwhelmed by the implications. They were looking at evidence of the greatest threat imaginable and the desperate efforts of a species that had sacrificed everything to give their successors a fighting chance. But 47,000 years was still a long time. Maybe it would be enough to prepare. Maybe the unknown species had been wrong about the threat. Maybe there was still hope. As if reading her thoughts, the computer displayed one final message. Phase 1 complete. Inheritor species successfully developed. Phase 2 protocols activated. Hidden assets preparing for revelation. The real preparation begins now. The message about Phase 2 protocols had been haunting Dr. Kethmori for days. What did it mean? What were these hidden assets? Her team had expanded to include 50 researchers from across the galaxy, all working to unlock the secrets of the mysterious species that had shaped galactic civilization. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Remen, a Kothari engineer, had been analyzing the energy patterns in the Continental computer when he noticed something strange. Dr. Kethmori, he called excitedly. The power source for this facility isn't on this planet. Kethmori hurried over to his station. What do you mean? The energy is being transmitted from somewhere else through quantum tunneling. The source appears to be... He paused, checking his calculations. It's coming from the Zephyrian home system, but that's impossible. Within hours, urgent messages were being sent across the galaxy. Every major civilization began checking their home systems for hidden installations. What they found changed everything. On Zephyr Prime, orbital surveys discovered a massive facility hidden beneath the planet's northern ice cap. It had been there for over 600,000 years, completely undetected by Zephyrian technology. Similar discoveries were made on Kothar, Methan Prime, and the Vorthan homeworld. Every major species had ancient installations on their home planets, all connected through quantum communication networks. They weren't just watching us, said Dr. Nala, reading the reports that flooded in from across the galaxy. They built monitoring stations on our own worlds. But the most shocking discovery came from Dr. Yorick's analysis of the quantum communication logs. The hidden facilities hadn't just been recording the development of galactic civilizations. They had been actively guiding it in real time. Look at this, he said, projecting a holographic timeline. Every major breakthrough in galactic history corresponds to a transmission from these hidden facilities. When the Zephyrians discovered faster-than-light travel, it was because one of these stations transmitted the mathematical principles directly into the dreams of our top scientists. Dreams again, muttered Lieutenant Vex. They really did control our minds while we slept. Not control, said Dr. Yorick. Guide. The technology is incredibly sophisticated. It plants ideas and inspirations without the subjects ever knowing they received external help. To the scientists, it felt like natural inspiration or sudden insight. Dr. Kethmori studied the data with growing amazement and horror. Show me the Kothari engineering revolution. The hologram shifted to show events from 300,000 years ago. The Kothari had been stuck at a primitive technological level for millennia, Yorick explained. Then suddenly, within a single generation, they developed advanced metallurgy, quantum mechanics, and spaceflight. Our historians always called it the Great Awakening, as if the entire species suddenly became smarter. Because they did, said Nala grimly. According to these logs, the hidden station on Kothar activated something called cognitive enhancement protocols. They literally upgraded the Kothari brain structure through targeted genetic modifications delivered by engineered viruses. Viruses? Said Lieutenant Vex. They infected entire populations? Beneficial infections, said Yorick. The viruses carried genetic modifications that improved memory, spatial reasoning, and problem-solving abilities. The Cathari thought they were just getting over a mild flu epidemic. They had no idea they were being evolved into better engineers. The revelations kept coming. The Methani's famous quantum intuition had been artificially created through modifications to their nervous systems. The Vorthon military genius came from enhanced tactical thinking abilities that had been gradually introduced over thousands of generations. Even the Delari's diplomatic skills were the result of modifications that improved their ability to read emotional cues and predict behavior. Every major strength of every major civilization was designed, said Dr. Keth Mori. We're not who we think we are. We're what they made us. But the most disturbing discovery was yet to come. Dr. Remen had been analyzing the deeper layers of the quantum communication network when he found something that made him call an emergency meeting. The network isn't just connecting the facilities. On our home worlds, he reported to the assembled research team. It extends throughout the galaxy. There are hidden stations everywhere, in asteroid belts, inside dead planets, even built into some of our space stations without us knowing. He projected a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light appeared, showing the locations of hidden installations. They formed a vast web that covered every inhabited system. How many are there? Asked Dr. Nala. Over 10,000 confirmed, with more being discovered every hour. Some of them are massive, artificial intelligence systems with processing power. That exceeds anything we've ever built. Others are smaller monitoring posts, but they're all connected, all working together. Working toward what? Asked Keth Mori. Dr. Remen highlighted a section of the map near the galactic core. The network has been running continuous simulations for hundreds of thousands of years. War games, tactical scenarios, resource management calculations, all focused on defending the galaxy against something coming from outside. The silence, whispered Dr. Yorick. More than that, said Remen. The AIs have been modeling the behavior and capabilities of every species in the galaxy. They know exactly how we think, how we fight, how we cooperate. And they've been using that knowledge to influence our development in ways we're only beginning to understand. Dr. Nala pulled up another set of data. Look at this. Galactic conflicts over the past 200,000 years. Every major war, every territorial dispute, every diplomatic crisis. They all follow patterns that seem random, but when you analyze them as a whole, the hologram showed the ebb and flow of galactic politics over millennia. Wars that seemed senseless suddenly revealed their purpose when viewed from a larger perspective. Conflicts that forced different species to develop new technologies. Diplomatic crises that created alliances between civilizations that had never cooperated before. They engineered our entire political history, said Lieutenant, Vex in disbelief. Every war, every peace treaty, every alliance, it was all designed to prepare us for something. Not just prepare us, said Dr. Yorick, who had been studying the deepest layers of the AI network. Transform us. Look at what the galaxy was like before their intervention. The hologram shifted to show the galaxy as it had been 2 million years ago. Dozens of small, isolated civilizations scattered across the stars, most of them barely advanced enough for space travel. They fought constantly, destroyed each other regularly, and showed no signs of cooperation or unity. Now look at us, said Yorick. The modern galaxy appeared, a vast network of allied civilizations sharing technology and resources, capable of coordinating massive projects across thousands of star systems. Despite their differences, the major species worked together more often than they fought. This isn't natural, said Dr. Keth Mori. Civilizations don't just spontaneously develop this level of cooperation. No, agreed Dr. Remen. It requires careful management over hundreds of thousands of years. The unknown species didn't just modify our bodies and minds, they modified our entire culture, our values, our instincts for cooperation. They turned a galaxy full of primitive warring tribes into a unified civilization capable of fighting a galactic war. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Everything they thought they knew about themselves, their civilizations, their history, all of it had been carefully constructed by beings so advanced that they might as well have been gods. "Doctor," said Dr. Nala quietly, "I've been analyzing the energy patterns in the AI network. The power consumption has been increasing steadily over the past few months. It's like the entire system is preparing to do something that will require enormous amounts of energy." "What kind of something?" "I don't know. But based on the calculations, whatever they're planning will require more power than some star systems produce." Dr. Yorick looked up from his analysis station, his face pale. "I think I know what they're preparing for. The AI network has been running new types of simulations recently, not war games or tactical scenarios, activation sequences." "Activation of what?" "Everything. Every hidden installation, every AI system, every piece of technology they left behind. The network is preparing to reveal itself to the galaxy." Dr. Kethamori felt a chill run down her spine. "When?" "Soon. The simulations all point to an activation event within the next few months. After 500,000 years of hiding, they're finally going to show us what they really built." As if summoned by their conversation, new alerts began appearing on every monitoring station. Across the galaxy, hidden installations were powering up, sending signals that could no longer be ignored. The age of secrets was ending. The unknown species had spent millions of years preparing the galaxy for war. Now their preparations were complete, and it was time for their inheritors to learn the true scope of what they had inherited. The real revelation was about to begin. The activation had begun. Across the galaxy, hidden installations that had remained secret for hundreds of thousands of years suddenly revealed themselves. Ancient structures rose from ocean floors, emerged from asteroid belts, and materialized from what had appeared to be empty space. The quantum communication network that Dr. Remen had discovered was now operating at full power, connecting thousands of facilities in a web of coordination that spanned the entire galaxy. Dr. Kethamori stood in the central chamber of the Continental facility, watching as new sections of the complex activated around her. Walls that had seemed solid revealed themselves to be massive display screens. The floor beneath her feet became transparent, showing layers upon layers of machinery stretching down into the planet's core. "Doctor," called Dr. Yorick from across the chamber. "The main AI is requesting communication." "Requesting?" said Kethamori. "It's been listening to us for weeks. Why is it asking permission now?" "I think it's been waiting for the right moment. The activation sequence isn't just about revealing the installations. It's about revealing the truth." A new voice filled the chamber, not transmitted through speakers, but somehow speaking directly into their minds. The voice was calm, ancient, and unutterably sad. "Greetings, inheritors. We are the last archive of the species you may call the architects. We have waited 500,000 years for this moment. You have found our facilities, learned of our interventions, and begun to understand your true nature. The time has come for you to learn why." Dr. Nala stepped forward. "Why did you hide from us? Why didn't you make contact openly?" "Because contact would have changed you in ways that would have made you unsuitable for your purpose. You needed to develop naturally within the parameters we established. Direct intervention would have made you dependent rather than capable." Lieutenant Vex crossed his arms. "So you decided to play God with our entire civilization instead? We decided to give you what we never had, a chance to survive what destroyed us." The chamber around them shifted, and suddenly they were standing in what appeared to be a vast star field. But this wasn't their galaxy. The stars were arranged differently, and strange nebulae cast everything in an eerie purple light. "This was our galaxy," the archive explained. "The Andromeda Spiral, as you call it. We achieved technological advancement 2 million years before your first civilizations began. We explored every star, colonized thousands of worlds, created an empire that spanned our entire galaxy. The star field around them began to change. Stars started going dark one by one, their light fading to black. Entire sectors of the galaxy became empty voids where no light existed. We thought we were prepared for anything. We had weapons that could shatter planets, shields that could stop supernovas, technology that let us manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. We believed ourselves to be the masters of the universe. More stars died. The purple nebulae began to fade, leaving only empty blackness spreading across the galaxy like an infection. Then we encountered the silence. The darkness in the visualization wasn't just the absence of light. It seemed to actively consume illumination, pulling brightness into itself and leaving nothing behind. As they watched, the spreading void reached populated systems. Worlds that had been bright with cities and technology simply went dark, not destroyed, but emptied. "What is it?" whispered Dr. Nala. "We never truly understood. The silence exists. In the spaces between galaxies, in the vast emptiness that separates spiral arms. It may be a single entity or a collective of entities. It may be natural or artificial. What we know is its purpose. It consumes the quantum signatures of biological life." The visualization shifted to show close-up views of affected worlds. Cities stood intact. Machines continued to function, but no life existed anywhere. Not just intelligent life, even bacteria, plants, the smallest microorganisms were gone. The planets were perfectly preserved museums of civilizations that had simply stopped existing. "It doesn't destroy," the archive continued. "It erases. Every biological process ceases. Every DNA strand becomes inert. Every cell structure remains intact, but loses the spark that makes it alive. And once the silence has touched a world, life can never begin there again." Dr. Yorick was frantically taking notes on his tablet. "How did your people fight it?" "We tried everything. Weapons that could crack stars barely slowed it down. Our most advanced shields were useless. We evacuated billions to other galaxies, but the silence followed our ships and found our refuges. In the end, we realized the truth. The silence cannot be defeated by force." "Then how?" asked Keth Mori. The star field around them changed again, showing their own galaxy as it had been 2 million years ago. Young, chaotic, full of primitive civilizations that fought constantly among themselves. We discovered that the silence has patterns, preferences. It is drawn to certain types of biological development, certain quantum signatures that emerge when life reaches specific levels of complexity. Our civilization had grown in ways that made us irresistible to it. "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Nala. "Single-species dominance, technological uniformity, centralized control. The quantum signature of a galaxy ruled by one advanced civilization calls to the silence like a beacon. But a galaxy with multiple species, diverse technologies, distributed power. This creates quantum interference that makes detection much more difficult." Lieutenant Vex began to understand. "So you decided to seed this galaxy with multiple civilizations instead of establishing your own empire." "More than that. We analyzed the quantum signatures that attracted the silence to our galaxy and designed your civilizations to produce the opposite effects. Each species was given different strengths, different technologies, different ways of thinking. Your diversity creates a quantum noise that masks the presence of advanced life. The visualization showed the current galaxy, dozens of allied species, with their own unique technologies and cultures, working together but maintaining their distinct identities. But diversity alone was not enough," the archive continued. "The silence adapts, learns, evolves. Eventually, it would have learned to detect even diverse civilizations. So we gave you something else, something we never had." "What?" asked Dr. Keth Mori. "Unity without uniformity, cooperation without dominance. Your species fight and disagree. But when faced with an existential threat, You are capable of working together while maintaining your individual strengths. This creates a quantum signature that the Silence has never encountered before. Dr. Yorick looked up from his tablet. You engineered us to be specifically resistant to the Silence. We engineered you to be invisible to it until the moment when you choose to become visible. Your cooperative diversity creates quantum interference that hides your presence. But when you act in perfect unity while maintaining your diversity, you create a quantum resonance that can actually damage the Silence. How do you know this will work if you never tried it? Asked Lieutenant Vex. Because we did try it. In our final years. When the Silence had consumed most of our galaxy, we created small test populations with the characteristics you now possess. Those populations survived while everything else died. The star field showed isolated pockets of light in the otherwise dark Andromeda galaxy, small groups of worlds that had somehow resisted the Silence. But by then, it was too late to save our galaxy. We could only save small fragments. So we came here, to your galaxy, to implement the full plan. Dr. Nala was staring at the visualization. You abandoned your own galaxy to save ours. We sacrificed our own species to create yours. The chamber fell silent as the weight of that statement settled over them. These beings had given up everything. Their empire, their worlds, their very existence, to create civilizations that might succeed where they had failed. The test populations in our galaxy, said Dr. Kethmori quietly. What happened to them? They thrived for a time, but they were too few and too isolated. The Silence eventually adapted and found them, but they survived long enough to prove the concept. You are the full implementation of everything they learned. And the Silence is coming. Our long-range sensors detected its approach 50,000 years ago. It moves slowly between galaxies, but its arrival is inevitable. Based on its current trajectory, it will reach the outer edges of your galaxy within the next 30,000 years. Dr. Yorick nearly dropped his tablet. 30,000 years, but the facility showed 47,000 years. That was our initial calculation. The Silence has accelerated. It learned from its encounter with our refugees and has become more efficient at traversing intergalactic space. The reality of their situation hit Dr. Kethmori like a physical blow. Everything they were, everything their civilizations had accomplished, had been designed by a species that was now extinct, and it was all in preparation for a war against an enemy that had already destroyed an entire galaxy. What do we need to do? She asked. Learn, train, prepare. The installations we built contain every technology we ever developed, plus new innovations designed specifically for fighting the Silence. But technology alone will not be enough. You must learn to act as one galaxy while remaining many species. Is that even possible? 6 months had passed since the Archive's revelation, and the galaxy had changed forever. Dr. Kethmori stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity Station, watching as ships from dozens of species worked together to build humanity's final gift to the galaxy. The station orbited the architect's homeworld, now renamed Hope's End in honor of the species that had sacrificed everything for the future. The revelation of the Silence had initially caused panic across galactic civilization. Some species wanted to flee to other galaxies. Others demanded that the architect installations be destroyed to avoid attracting attention. A few even suggested that the whole story was an elaborate hoax. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the Silence was already closer than anyone had imagined. Doctor, said Dr. Yorick, approaching with his usual armload of data tablets, we've received confirmation from the outer monitoring stations. 3 more galaxies in the local group have gone silent in the past month. Kethmori nodded grimly. How close is it now? The leading edge of the Silence has reached the Magellanic Clouds. At its current rate of expansion, it will enter our galaxy's outer rim in approximately 28,000 years. 28,000 years. It sounded like a long time, but Kethmori had learned that preparing an entire galaxy for war required thinking in geological timescales. The architects had spent over 1,000,000 years preparing their inheritors. Now those inheritors had less than 30 millennia to complete their training. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" she asked. "The vote was unanimous," said Dr. Yorick with relief. "All 47 major civilizations have agreed to the Unity Protocols. Even the Vorthan Empire, despite their initial resistance. The Unity Protocols were the architect's master plan for galactic defense, finally revealed in full after months of careful study. Every hidden installation across the galaxy had activated, revealing technologies that revolutionized their understanding of physics, biology, and warfare. But the most important revelation had been the protocols themselves, detailed instructions for how the galaxy's diverse civilizations could work together while maintaining their unique strengths. Dr. Nala approached from the other side of the observation deck. "The first Unity fleet has completed its shakedown cruise," she reported. "Captain Vorthak says the integration systems are working better than expected." Through the viewport, Kethamori could see the most remarkable sight in galactic history. A fleet of ships that truly represented unified diversity. Zephyrian vessels with their elegant crystalline hulls flew alongside blocky Kothari engineering ships. Methani craft that seemed to phase in and out of normal space coordinated with massive Vorthon dreadnoughts. Each ship maintained its species' distinctive design philosophy, but they all carried architect integration technology that allowed them to function as a single organism when necessary. "The quantum resonance tests?" asked Kethamori. "Successful beyond our wildest hopes," said Nala excitedly. "When the fleet operates in full Unity mode, the quantum signature they generate is unlike anything we've ever seen. If the architects were right, the silence won't even be able to perceive them until they choose to be perceived." Lieutenant Vex, now promoted to commander and serving as military liaison to the project, joined their group. "The training programs are showing remarkable results," he reported. "It turns out that the architects didn't just engineer our biology and technology. They engineered our psychology to be naturally compatible for this kind of cooperation." That had been one of the most surprising discoveries. When species tried to work together using the Unity protocols, they found it felt natural, almost instinctive. Centuries of seemingly random cultural development suddenly revealed their purpose. Languages that had evolved to be compatible, social structures that complemented each other perfectly, even art and music that resonated across species boundaries, in ways that enhanced group cooperation. "We're not just allies," Vex continued. "We're components of a single system that was designed to work together. The architects didn't just prepare us to fight the silence, they made us into the perfect weapon against it." Dr. Yorick activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic preparation. Thousands of worlds were now part of the Unity network, sharing resources and knowledge in ways that had never been possible before. Advanced shipyards constructed vessels using technologies from multiple species. Research stations developed new weapons and defenses based on principles the architects had discovered in their final desperate years. "The quantum disruptor array is ahead of schedule," he reported. "The Delari Diplomatic Corps successfully negotiated resource-sharing agreements that cut construction time by 40%. The quantum disruptor array was perhaps the most ambitious project in galactic history, a network of massive installations that would span the entire galaxy, designed to create quantum interference patterns that could actually damage the silence. Building it required the combined industrial capacity of every major civilization. "What about the refugee protocols?" asked Kethamori. "Fully implemented," said Nala. "Every inhabitable world in the galaxy now has facilities prepared to support populations from other species if evacuation becomes necessary. The architect's biological modification technology has been adapted to allow temporary species integration. Different species can actually share the same world without environmental conflicts." That had been another surprise. The genetic modifications, The architects had made to galactic species weren't just for enhanced capabilities. They were also for compatibility. In an emergency, different species could literally share the same ecosystems, with each species adapting temporarily to support the others. Commander Vex pointed to another section of the display. The Deep Strike forces are fully operational. We now have fleets capable of fighting in the spaces between galaxies using architect dimensional technology. The Deep Strike forces were the galaxy's last resort. Fleets designed to take the fight directly to the silence in the cosmic void. They used technology that allowed them to exist partially outside normal space-time, making them theoretically immune to the silence's life-draining effects. "Have we heard anything from the Andromeda survivors?" asked Dr. Yorick, still receiving. "They're signals," said Nala. "The architect refugees who escaped to other galaxies are still alive, still fighting. They've managed to establish hidden colonies in 17 different galaxies, and they're all implementing similar unity protocols with the local species they've found." That had been the most hopeful discovery of all. The architects hadn't been completely destroyed. Small groups had escaped the fall of their galaxy and were seeding other galaxies with the same preparation protocols that had created the current galactic alliance. The fight against the silence was happening on a cosmic scale, with prepared civilizations emerging across the universe. Dr. Kethamori turned back to the viewport, watching as construction continued on the Unity Station. The massive facility would serve as the coordination center for galactic defense, but it was also something more, a symbol of what could be achieved when diverse civilizations chose to work together. "Doctor," said Dr. Yorick quietly, "I've been thinking about what the archive told us. About unity without uniformity." "What about it?" "I don't think the architects just created us to fight the silence. I think they created us to be something better than they were. Their civilization was unified, but uniform. They all thought the same way, used the same technology, had the same culture. That made them powerful. But it also made them vulnerable." Kethamori nodded. "Because uniformity creates predictable patterns that the silence can learn to exploit." "Exactly, but we're different. We maintain our diversity even while working together. That makes us unpredictable, adaptable. We can change our approach, try new strategies, evolve our tactics in ways that a uniform civilization never could." Commander Vex joined the conversation. "The military simulations support that theory. When our forces operate using traditional single-species tactics, they perform well but predictably. But when they use the unity protocols, maintaining their individual approaches while coordinating at a higher level, they become capable of strategies that no one species could have developed alone. It's more than just military tactics," added Dr. Nala. "The scientific breakthroughs we've achieved in the past 6 months surpass anything any single species accomplished in centuries. When Zephyrian analytical thinking combines with Kothari, engineering intuition, and Methani quantum insights, the results are exponentially greater than the sum of their parts." Dr. Kethamori smiled, feeling something she hadn't experienced since learning about the silence. Genuine hope. The architects didn't just create us to fight their enemy. They created us to evolve beyond the limitations that made them vulnerable in the first place. An alert tone sounded throughout the station. Dr. Yorick checked his tablet. "We're receiving a transmission from the archive. It wants to speak with us." They made their way to the communication chamber, where the familiar voice of the last archive filled the air. "Inheritors, we have monitored your progress with great satisfaction. The Unity protocols have been implemented more successfully than our most optimistic projections. You have achieved something we never could.